Enjoy the convenience of 7 days a week banking and extended hours with Cube from First Arkansas Bank and Trust. Member FDIC. Live from the Hogs Meat Market Studios, this is Out of Bounds.
Booker has it. Booker leans in. That's a two-pointer. Shot won't go. Rebound tip taken by Tucker. Knocked loose. Back out to Booker. Final seconds. Deflected. Pull. A three-pointer. It's over. The Milwaukee Bucks are one win away from their first title in 50 years as they win on the road to take Game 5 and now lead 3 games to 2. The comeback falls short for Phoenix, a crushing loss at home.
Yeah.
With John Neighbors.
Every time you put a mic in my face, I'm going to say Arkansas.
And Joe Franklin.
We won't go into shell. We're going to go in attack mode because that's what's required.
On 1037 The Buzz. Coverage of SEC Media Days is presented by First Security Bank. First Security Bank, only in Arkansas. And brought to you in part by Edwards Food Giant, Eat My Catfish, and Blackman Auctions.
Welcome in Out of Bounds here on 1037 The Buzz. Appreciate everybody listening in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. John Neighbors broadcasting live from Hoover, Alabama for SEC Media Days. Joe Franklin back in the Hogs Meat Market Studios today. And Joe, this is a great day. Hope you had a great weekend. And to say how much of a great day it is, I'm literally looking at head coach of the LSU Tigers, Ed Orgeron, walking into the concourse where we're at. So it's already pretty lively here at SEC Media Days.
So who's been a part of Radio Row already?
Well, they haven't really gotten too much to it. I know that it looks like Ed Orgeron is heading towards Radio Row, so he's going to be involved with it a little bit. Dan Mullen has already been meeting up with some of the other media rooms and everything, giving interviews there, but I don't think he's been down to Radio Row. And Shane Beamer's the other one that's going today, the new South Carolina coach, and I've yet to see him. So I think Ed Orgeron may be the first one to go as far as SEC Media Day coaches are concerned.
Now, all the coaches go through Radio Row. I know they have a room where they kind of they do their interviews and they'll answer certain questions and then just kind of give an overall view of their team. But so every coach does do Radio Row?
Usually they do, at least in some capacity. But there's also, at least from people that I've been talking to because of COVID, there's been some coaches and players that are passing on that. But from who I've talked to as far as teams and people that are covering those teams, I feel like the vast majority of coaches will be going through Radio Row. So we'll just see how it all plays out. But which is great to have, and it's great to see because that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to have the coaches back. Because, again, we're getting back to normal, and it's a process and all of that. But that's one of the best things about being here on Radio Row is not only being able to be here in the mix of everything, but also being able to see and maybe interview some of these coaches as well. So that's a big part of it for sure.
Yeah, it's always a big part of it. It's a great time hearing what everybody has to say, and it gets the excitement for football season coming about. How many days are we away now?
We are 48 days away from Razorback football.
And so with SEC Media Days going on, it just gets that excitement and everything going for it. And you know it's right around the corner. And being that short a time away, you know that time is going to be here before we know it.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's kind of funny because I love SEC Media Days. Now, there are some media members here that I know that don't necessarily care for it. It's a job to them, and it's work, and that's fine. I mean, I get it. That's totally part of it. And then there's other ones that just eat it up. But I'm telling you, it's like, and as lame, as nerdy as it sounds, if you're like a big comic book fan and you go to a comic convention, like Comic-Con, as they call it, and you just like nerd out, that's essentially what SEC Media Days is for people in sports media, where you just go here and you nerd out because you see all these different people that you're like, oh, I've seen you on TV before. Or you see this coach of, oh, I've seen you in press conferences before. It's like a bunch of people that you've never seen in person or you very seldom see in person, and now you finally get to see them in person for a week. So it's just kind of a nerdy convention for all of us sports media people.
Is there anyone that you've had to do a double take on, not necessarily since you've been there now, but just in past years where you recognize the face, but right away you can't put a name with it, and you're like, man, that person looks familiar?
Yeah, I did it actually today, Joe, because Jordan Rogers, who we know as Aaron Rodgers' brother and was also part of the Vandy football team, does SEC Network stuff. He was here this morning doing interviews, and it kind of threw me off a little bit because he had like a backwards hat on and was dressed pretty casual, which, he's early in the morning, so he hasn't got ready for TV yet. But I saw him, I was like, wait a minute, where do I know that guy from? And then as soon as I saw like the smile, I was like, oh, yep, there it is. That's the old Bachelor of Jordan Rogers hanging out over there. So I had to do kind of a take with him because just not only because of the hat and everything, but also because it's you can just kind of tell because you're used to seeing him with like a suit on and everything on broadcast and all of that. But when he came in, it was like, okay, so yeah, there's even been double takes today, but there's a few of them, and I'm sure there's going to be a few more while I'm here too.
Yeah, that's always amazing. Like you were talking about seeing people in person and it may be a first experience. It's always amazing when you do those type things and you recognize somebody but don't know quite who they are, and then it comes to you.
Oh, I know. And that's what I'm looking forward to is not only seeing some of those people, but then there'll be opportunities where I'll get to meet new people, maybe people that I haven't, like Alyssa Lang, for instance. She's also on the SEC Network, does a great job. This is just the time. This is just where it's at, pretty much, Joe. Where she comes up to me, she's just like, "You're John Neighbors, right?" And of course, I was like, "Man, she's coming to She recognized me? Are you kidding me?" And then she goes, "Oh yeah, because I follow you on Twitter." I was like, oh, of course. It's just because people following each other on social media that doesn't even or haven't even met before in person. It just becomes where it's like, all right, so there you go. Now we can put a face to the social media account, if you will, and it's another way to kind of meet people again that you haven't met before, but you actually can see them in person and see what they're all about too.
Has she gotten the follow back, or did she get the follow back?
Come on now, Joe. You know she got that follow back. If I get a blue check mark of Alyssa Lang who follows me on Twitter, if I don't follow her back, then I consider that's probably something she'll remember if I don't throw that follow back. But no, she was really cool and she was really nice. And of course she, she said that she really wished that she could have made it to Fayetteville more for the baseball season because she says Fayetteville's one of her most favorite places. So, which was kind of cool. But either way, we get to. We're going to talk with her this week. In fact, we have a loaded schedule of interviews from some great people throughout the whole week. We're going to be joined by people like Peter Burns of the SEC Network, Greg McElroy, a former Alabama quarterback, Cole Kublik, who we've had on before, who's a great defensive player for Auburn, and he's on the SEC Network as well. And even today, though, Joe, we're pretty loaded. Hopefully we're able to make it all work, but we have Connor O'Gara, C.J. O'Gara, who's, of course, done a great job with that Saturday Down South. He's going to be joining us around 1:25 here in just a little bit in this next segment, and we'll talk to him about all the comments that Greg Sankey and the SEC made. And we have him, T-Bob Hebert. You remember old T-Bob? He's going to be joining us at 2:30 today. Talk a little LSU since they're one of the teams that's going up. And, of course, Dudley Dawson's joining us at 3:30. We had to push him back, Joe, because at 3:05 we're going to be joined by Joe Tessitore, who, as we all know, has done a lot of stuff with ESPN and not only was on the SEC Network but did ESPN college football games and was also on Monday Night Football. So the guy's done it all. So even today we got a loaded lineup. And I can't wait to see exactly who's it going to be as far as Joe Tessitore when we talk about some of his moments and games that he's called for Arkansas, because I know that he's had some memorable ones and he's always talked highly of Fayetteville, and he's had a lot of energetic calls, too. So just being able to talk with him will be fun. And I know that him being back in this radio, I was actually talking to Amanda Brooks, who was the communications director for all things SEC Network and everything. She was telling me that this is the first time that he's been back to SEC Media Days since the SEC Network started in 2014. So you're talking about a long time since he's done Radio Row. And he's being able to get after it and let's do some new things too. So yeah, Joe Tess, it's going to be fun. That's happening at 3:05, and looking forward to catching up with him. Honestly,
I always like he does a lot of different sports, and I know he's a boxing guy, so I love what he brings to the sport of boxing. And football, he does quite a few different things. So it'll be interesting talking to him about some of the things that he loves to do.
That's right. And so in part of this, too, we're going to have a Reaction Monday. So we're going to react to a lot of things that happen in the sports world. We're going to have the best and worst of the weekend. We're definitely going to get into that because I got a great worst one, Joe, that I'm sure you'll appreciate as well. And, of course, we want to hear from you. 501-661-1037 is the number to call or text in. And get after us in the Asher Record Live fan feedback. After me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNeighbors. Let's go to an early call. Ryan is in Hot Springs. What's going on, Ryan?
Oh, not a whole lot. I actually was watching the Dan Mullen deal, and I just loved Connor getting after old Dan Mullen. That was fantastic. I don't know if you saw his question or not. He asked him about his defense, what they want. Something about figuring out the defense or something. Pretty much calling out their defense was bad. It was pretty fantastic. And you can tell Dan got a little offended, but he was trying not to hide it because he was like, well, I don't know that it was bad, but it was sporadic and or erratic, the word to use. I just thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, Ryan, real quick, it's funny. I'm glad you brought that up because when he's coming on, I saw the quotes on social media. I didn't realize that it was Connor that asked him, so that's going to be a perfect little opening comment for him to have.
I will say this: I'm not big on a lot of the people on the SEC network, but Alyssa's on the short list that I do like. I like her. I like the new guy from the Alabama corner. I cannot think of his name right now. I didn't think I was going to like him, but I actually wound up liking him as the season went along last year. And then, how could you not love Laura Rutledge? So, but
oh yeah, I mean she was one of the OGs of the SEC network
right
when it really got going. And I feel like they had some turnover and some guys go here and there, but I feel like Greg McElroy's kind of been the standard too because he's been here the whole time. Like other people got added, but Greg's been the guy that's been from 2014 till now.
Well, he's on my you-know-what list after the way he handled after we fired Chad Morris, because he pretty much raked us over the coals for that, and dude ain't got enough sense coming out of the rain to see that we needed to fire Morris. He's on my list after that, because because there was another, I don't remember now who the team was that fired their coach that needed that same situation we were in, needed to be fired, but he gave them a pat on the back for doing it, but actually roasted us. So that guy, if I ran in public, I just look the other way. I mean, I wouldn't take time to say hi to. And I actually liked Greg up till that point too. And oddly enough, I liked Tebow up till he got married. It seemed like once he got married, though, he just, I don't know, he used to be pretty high on Arkansas, and now he got a little vindictive towards Arkansas last year. I don't know if we fired Bielema or what.
Well, that's a good correlation, though. Since he got married, he's off the Arkansas wagon. That's funny.
I mean, I don't know if you picked up on that or not, but it's probably just coincidence. But I hope y'all have a good day and go Hogs.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for calling in, man. And, we'll have Greg on Thursday, so I'll have to convey your message to him, too. And it's funny, like you said, Joe, I want to be like, well, isn't that what happens to all guys when they get married? They get that funectomy where they're just not the same anymore. Isn't that what happens? That's what I've been told, at least.
Right, but with Arkansas, though, because it's not like Tebow has any kind of connection to Arkansas. Now, he's been to Fayetteville a number of times, but there's not a connection there, so that's kind of odd.
Yeah, it is strange, but still I can totally get it too. But either way, folks, we got a loaded show for you. Again, Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South is going to be joining us next. He's going to talk to us about the comments made by Greg Sankey, which he had a lot of interesting things to say, especially about the NIL and especially about the COVID situation, which he is very much making an emphasis on getting everyone vaccinated. And there may be some consequences to those that don't, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what Dan Mullen has had to say so far. Ed Orgeron is right there on Radio Row. He's looking good, and there's a lot of pressure on him this year too, which we'll talk a little LSU as well with T-Bob Hebert in the second hour. We got so much stuff going on, folks. It's going to be a great show. We appreciate you listening. We are broadcasting live from SEC Media Days on Radio Row right here in Hoover, Alabama. Stay with us, folks. More Out of Bounds coming up next.
I broke 1,000 hearts before I met you. I'll break 1,000 more, baby.
This is SportsCenter
The Razorback football team adds one of the biggest recruits on their big board. On Saturday, offensive lineman Patrick Kutas made his commitment. The Memphis native is listed as the number 23 prospect in the state of Tennessee. He chose Arkansas over Florida State, Oregon, and Illinois. Well, Team Arkansas's chance of winning $1 million in the TBT tournament came to an end yesterday as they lost to Team Challenge ALS. The tournament features teams made up of former college basketball players from their respective state. Today is the start of SEC Media Days in Hoover, Alabama. At the podium today will feature Florida, LSU, and South Carolina. Arkansas will be on the final day with Missouri and Auburn. Stay tuned to The Buzz all day for exclusive interviews. At the Open Championship, Colin Morikawa captured the Claret Jug after finishing the tournament at 15 under. He was followed by Jordan Spieth at 13 under. I'm RJ Hawk for the Buzz Radio Network.
Remember playing hot potato when the music stopped? You sometimes found yourself out of luck. If you're driving a vehicle right now with a huge payment or even negative equity, then you're basically driving a hot potato on wheels, just waiting for the music to stop. Gwatney Chevrolet in Jacksonville is ready to help you trade up or simply pull in and cash out. Your car's value is elevated right now, so you have options. But when new car inventory catches up, and it will, the music will stop, and your car's temporary elevated value will be over. The choice is yours. Call Gwatney and trade up while you can, or let that newfound equity simply go down the drain. Call 982-2102 and get out while the getting is good. At Gwatney Chevrolet, take the Gregory Street exit, 1301 TP White Drive in Jacksonville. Call 982-2102, GwatneyChevrolet.com. Chevrolet, find new roads.
Don't miss the savings during Lowe's Just for Pros event. Stop by the Pro Desk and get an extra 5% off volume savings orders over $1,500. Plus, look for more savings across the store, including tools, paint, lighting, and other pro essentials to help you get the job done right. Shop today at Lowe's, the new home for pros. Discount on eligible product only and reflected in quote. Terms and exclusions apply. See Pro Desk in store for details. Now through July 30th. U.S. only.
Progressive Motorcycle presents Road Wisdom from the Motor.
Half man, half motorcycle.
You grab life with both hands. And you grab your bike with both hands.
Both hands.
Therefore, bike is life.
Figuratively speaking.
Progressive Motorcycle also presents Roadside Assistance. Progressive Motorcycle, for those who were born to ride. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
What's up, everybody? This is Pat Bradley. Catch me every Tuesday in the Zone, brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage. Since 1898, they've been your local lending experts. Visit them online at boearkansas.com.
Shop Fort Thompson for all your summer clothing needs. Patagonia, Free Fly, Hook, Drake, and Bandit. And don't forget, Fort Thompson's has a wide variety of rifles and handguns. Get Dad a gift card at Fort Thompson's in Sherwood.
It's finally here. Your chance to win $365,000 every year for the rest of your life. Yep, the Lucky for Life game from the Arkansas Scholarship Lottery is better than ever. Now there's a drawing every single day, so don't wait. Get your ticket today. This is winning. Call or text 1-800-522-4700 for Problem Gambling Helpline.
It's not just about the size of the meat, it's about where you get it from. So get it from Hogs Meat Market in North Little Rock. Hogs Meat Market, the steak people. You're listening to Out of Bounds with John Neighbors and Joe Franklin.
Do you want to dip size your meal for a quarter more? Want me to punch size your face for free?
On 103.7 The Buzz. Coverage of SEC Media Days is presented by First Security Bank. First Security Bank, only in Arkansas. And brought to you in part by Edwards Food Giant, Eat My Catfish, and Blackman Auctions.
Everybody's looking for a come up, and they want to know what you're about. Me in the middle with the one I love it. We're just trying to figure everything out.
Welcome back into Out of Bounds, broadcasting live from SEC Media Days here in Hoover, Alabama. Appreciate our sponsors making it possible and appreciate everybody tuning in. It's going to be a great week because we know that this is talking season. So we get revved up, a little preseason to the preseason of college football. Already have heard from Greg Sankey, and also have had some comments made by Dan Mullen. Ed Orgeron's right over there in Radio Row, so we're just getting kicked off and getting started. And joining us right now here on Radio Row is friend of the show. He's come on a lot of times via the phone lines, but now he is with us in person. It is Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South. Connor, man, looking sharp. How's it feel to be back at SEC Media Days?
Thank you, sir. I had to dress up a little bit just because when you're not here for a full year, you feel compelled to make it feel special, and that's what I wanted to be able to do. I don't think I'm going to be able to keep up with this pace all week, though. That just seems impossible. But, I just wanted to be able to represent the brand Saturday Down South, just trying to do what I can down here.
Excellent, man. Well, I know that obviously there's going to be a lot of questions being asked for different coaches and everything, but we'll start with Greg Sankey doing his little State of the Address or State of the Union, however you want to call it, that he does every year at SEC Media Days. This year's a little different. Like, again, we didn't have it last year. There's this NIL thing. There's a lot of moving parts in with COVID and everything, but as far as what when you got to listen to him, what was your biggest takeaway from the stuff that he said?
I knew that he was going to be very proactive talking about the vaccine. And that was the thing that I had heard coming into today that was going to be reiterated a lot. And not to make this seem like we're totally out of the woods and talking about some of those threshold numbers. And I didn't realize how much of what he had to say was going to be related to that, but it very much was. I think Sankey's really good at this. I think he understands how to read the room. I think he understands the important issues. I thought some of the comments about not necessarily going after the NCAA all the time and trying to come up with the right solution to have a governing body in college athletics. I thought that was pretty transparent to be able to get that from him. And, of course, some of the name, image, and likeness stuff. Everybody at the top is going to be anti-transfer portal, and he threw out some of those numbers. But the biggest thing that I thought was interesting was hearing him talk about some of the vaccination numbers and hearing that 6 of 14 SEC teams have that 80% threshold and talking about the need to improve. That's not good enough just yet to have the season that we want to have.
So when he said 6 out of 14, I don't know if I was surprised or not because, again, I don't know what all the processes goes into play, but do you feel like maybe there is not as many or as large of a percentage of teams that have gotten to that point? Is it because of resistance? Is it just because they haven't gotten around to doing it? Like, what do you think could be the possibilities there? Because we don't want to see any games get canceled or moved this year at all.
We don't want any repeats of 2020. And that was one of the things that he had talked about was, will there be forfeits this year? And will there be those minimum roster requirements? And he wants to do away with that. He wants it to be on those specific teams, be healthy and be able to play. And if not, you're going to have to forfeit. They don't have the flexibility in the schedule this year. Whether it is an issue of resistance to the vaccine itself or just guys not getting around to it, I don't know, and I don't necessarily want to paint too broad of a brush there. But I do think that it is one of those things in which we're talking about whether or not this is going to look normal. Mm-hmm. And if you can do something to make it feel normal, then it obviously does the SEC well to communicate that message to the rest of the world.
See, and that's kind of how I took it, too, because you know that Sankey, which he made sure that he showed his tweets from last year basically saying, hey, just remember, I wasn't panicking, and the SEC wasn't panicking. We felt like we had a game plan in place. And I'm not saying that it maybe gives a little credence or a little credit, but at the same time, it kind of does show, and I actually appreciate him kind of flexing on that because it kind of shows that, hey, we handled this the right way when everybody else was panicking and, canceling seasons or postponing seasons or He's like, we went in there knowing that this was a dangerous thing, but at the same time, we got it done in an efficient manner to where we were still able to have college football.
Greg Sankey's been the voice of reason in college sports for the last year. And he has continued to be that. Now, has he been perfect? No. I think some of the things with the scheduling and the way that broke down last year, I know Arkansas fans, I don't have to convince them that there seem to be some injustices there. But I think that what Greg Sankey has brought to the table is a sense of calm, and I think he still has that. So when he preaches this urgency to make sure that the numbers continue to improve, I think that it should be taken seriously.
One of the things that we had a caller in our previous segment, Ryan in Hot Springs, he called in, and because we were teasing that you were coming on the show, and he was like, hey, Connor, it looked like he kind of got Dan Mullen a little miffed a little bit as one of his questions. And the thing is I saw the quote on Twitter, but I didn't know that you were asking him about his defense and improvement. But tell us about you apparently not, I wouldn't say getting a miffed, but definitely
a little bit.
You got a little agitated maybe.
In my defense, it doesn't take much to get Dan Mullen agitated in the year 2021. But I think that Dan Mullen answering that question and the reason that I asked, and just a little context here, I basically asked, what was the biggest thing that prevented your defense from figuring out last year? And I think anybody who consumed college football last year, Florida fans included, would agree that Florida's defense did not figure it out last year. And I wanted to see how he would react to that. I wanted to see if he, this is going to be a pun, but I wanted to see how defensive he'd get. Because we saw Dan Mullen in 2020 react defensively in many different scenarios. And I think that a lot of fans are wondering, why did you retain a defensive coordinator who struggled so mightily in this year? That was atypical, and there were a lot of circumstances surrounding that. But he basically tried to play it off as, I wouldn't say that we never figured it out. And he said you could point to individual moments, but in my opinion, a defense that gets shredded like that down the stretch is a defense that never quite figures it out.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, there's probably teams out there that give up 50 points a game that got a sack one time.
True, good point.
Yeah, you could point out moments all day long. But just speaking out the SEC East, because obviously Florida won it last year. I feel like Georgia, and you'll probably agree, may be the heavy favorite to win it the East this year. But with Dan Mullen in Florida, though, not changing defenses or anything, I mean, what kind of season can be expected out of them? I know that they've had some turnover and all that. They do really good in recruiting. But, I mean, is this a year that Florida can go up against Georgia and win the East, or is this maybe a 8-4, 9-3 type of year for Florida?
I don't want to say it's impossible. Georgia's my pick to win the East, though.
Yeah.
And they will be the vast majority of media members here will be picking Georgia to beat Florida to win the division. Now, talking with some other people who think that Florida is maybe getting slept on a little bit too much, and Emory Jones has Heisman potential and all these different things. I'm not necessarily willing to go there just yet, though I do think he's going to be good and he's going to have his rough moments. The defense is going to be better. The irony in what I just talked about is that I actually think the defense should improve a lot. I mean, it really can't get a whole lot worse than it was at points last year. But I think this Florida team has a much higher floor than maybe people realize. They've played 36 consecutive games as an AP top 25 team. This is a team that has been to 3 consecutive New Year's Six Bowls and has done a lot of things really well in the recruiting world, just not as good as Georgia. But if you're at Florida, it's always about what have you done in comparison to Georgia. And this is a tough year for Florida to be rebuilding with the pieces that Georgia has on offense. But at the same time, I think Dan Mullen is a good enough offensive mind in this sport to make Gator fans think that this is a team still capable of going to another New Year's Six Bowl and potentially competing in the SEC East.
Speaking with Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South here on Out of Bounds Live from Hoover, Alabama for SEC Media Days. Talk to us about the coach that's over there at Ed Orgeron at LSU. We know he's a national championship coach, and you probably have plenty to say about him, but I feel like this year, I don't know if it's a do-or-die year, but there's a lot of pressure on Ed Orgeron to get this thing turned around.
It'd be one thing if you're just coming off of a 5-5 season at LSU. To throw on top of that the Title IX lawsuit that is ongoing, it certainly makes this situation a lot murkier. And I know there are a lot of people who are wondering what the future holds for Ed Orgeron. And I hate that the Gene Chizik comparisons have been thrown on because I love Gene Chizik personally. Yeah. And I hate to see that kind of path. And I don't like seeing anyone go on that path. But those are things that need to be addressed. And last year was a disaster. It was a disaster, and it makes it look even worse when you have these comments that come out about not necessarily doing his due diligence to interview all coordinator positions, and he overhauls his staff. I mean, think about how different LSU is now compared to 2019. It's like Coach O and Derek Stingley, and that's it. And then pretty much you look around and you're like, wow, Steve Ensminger isn't here anymore. By the way, Dory Rosenthal's not even here anymore. He just left for Kentucky. And I guess Miles Brennan, you got to include him as well. But, he's still got a quarterback job to win, and one would think that if he doesn't, he could be on the way out. There's just a lot of moving pieces for LSU in the last year and a half here. But it's going to be an interesting day for him here in Hoover.
Well, and I was thinking about just LSU and looking at their team not only this year but then this past year. And, I think the Gene Chizik comparisons are maybe a little unfair, but it does make me wonder in that year that they were just dominant, won the national championship, had one of the best years you'll ever see a college football team have. I mean, was it simply chalked up that the stars aligned perfectly, where it was just you had just the right coach and the right quarterback in Joe Burrow and the right team and the right schedule? Because, I honestly thought after that year, I'm like, man, Ed Orgeron, maybe I was wrong about him. Maybe he can really do this consistently. But then seeing how he's handled all the turnover and the coaching and all the other things, it makes me wonder, all right, maybe that was just a one-year flash in the pan, and we're starting to see Coach O for really what he is now.
Well, the great measure of any human being is how do you handle success. It's not how do you handle failure, but handling success and being able to build on that. And, two things can be true at the same time. LSU might have just hit it exactly at the right point in 2019. And also there could be some chinks in the armor, some things about his coaching style that he's still learning about himself. And that hiring process last year where, this time last year I was talking about Bo Pelini and how I thought if he could just chill out a little bit, he could actually fit in really well with what they're trying to build. And he's got a lot of support there in Baton Rouge. But that was a disastrous hire. I still don't know how it's possible for a team to be ranked dead last in passing when you have pass defense rather, when you have Derek Stingley and Eli Ricks, who entered 2021 as the best cornerback duo in college football. That seems impossible, but Bo Pelini found a way. I think that this is just a very telling year, and a lot of people look at it as a fork in the road season for Coach O.
And speaking of a place that knows all about terrible coaching hires, let's talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks for a little bit, because we all remember the Chad Morris thing, but luckily those years are behind Arkansas. Sam Pittman in year one last year goes 3-7 and is competitive in 4 other games. I mean, you can make the argument he should have beaten Auburn. We won't get into that, but he did a lot of good things that made Razorback fans hopeful. Maybe not all in, but hopeful that he can get this thing turned around. What do you make of the Razorbacks in 2021?
I think the ceiling is maybe 4-4 in SEC play and 8-4 overall. But if that's the best case scenario, think about where things were a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It is so different now to have that position feel like it's figured out and to not feel like he's on the way out or he's really got to show something this year that we didn't see last year. I think last year you really look at what they did in the first 6 games where they were a top 40 defense. They would have finished as a top 40 defense had they continued on that pace. And then injuries and depth really got to that defense down the stretch. But I thought they did a lot of things well. And being able to retain both of those coordinators, really important to have Kendall Briles back on the offensive side of the ball. I'm optimistic about KJ Jefferson and what he can do in the SEC this year. And Traylon Burks, if you're not putting him on your preseason All-America teams, you should be. But there are a lot of things with Arkansas that we still have yet to see. How are they going to handle those games where they're expected to win? And they look like that team that, has these increased expectations, and we're asking, hey, are they going to come out and look like the team that we thought they were going to be this year? They have expectations. They should have expectations. They're no longer the hapless team in the SEC West, and that's a very good place to be.
And I think that most Razorback fans would agree that because of that fact has made them hopeful. But the schedule, I think, is what always kind of gets in the way, because it's like you go on the road to Georgia. That's your East rotator, which you played last year, as you mentioned, being the overwhelming favorite in the East. You still go on the road to Bama, to LSU, to Ole Miss, not to mention a non-conference game against Texas. So it's like I have felt the same way where you have. I'm like 7-5, 8-4 would be the best case scenario. But the problem is just Arkansas has almost gotten used to it, where it's like, hey, we got the toughest schedule in the country, and it doesn't look like any different this year.
But here's the good thing. If you go 6-6, and if you're at least competitive in some of those games, and you get to a bowl game, you get those extra practices, you get to a place where you haven't been in 5 years. That's a long time in this day and age, and I think that Arkansas fans are ready for that. And I know that talking with them and talking with you, it is certainly evident that they are so eager for a coach who gets it. And it's a good place to be in college football when you have expectations and you're not just talking about Club Dub after beating some mid-major.
Yeah, we buried Club Dub very far under the ground. Yeah, ripping pieces for that. But no, and I agree with you as far as that goes. So if Arkansas is going to have that ceiling 8-4 year, is there a particular player or a unit that you look at and say, this is the one that has to be the piece? This has to be, obviously the quarterback's always important, but is there a certain part of this team that you say, if they perform at a high level, that's how they get to 8-4?
I want to see first half defense. I want to see that first half defense resurface. I want to see Barry Odom look like the guy who's getting nominated for the Broyles Award. I want to see that throughout this year with all the experience that they have coming back. What is it, 10 starters coming back on defense, all these guys that take advantage of this 6th year of eligibility. It is rare to be able to have 2 guys who are worthy of preseason All-America discussion. Jalen Kettle and Grant Morgan are worthy of that. That's what I think will change this team, because I think offensively they're going to go through some growing pains. I think it's going to be a little bit rough early on. They're still trying to find that number 2 receiver. The loss of Mike Woods obviously important, but I think this is a team that, can they establish that defensive identity? The pieces are there. That's what's going to take them from being a team that just felt like kind of a feel-good story to, oh, this team can actually hang in the SEC and look the part for the duration of a season and not just part of it.
So let's talk about SEC Media Days in general now. We got all the coaches still ahead of us. I know Ed Orgeron and Dan Mullen are in the mix there too, but any particular coaches you're looking forward to hearing from the most this week?
I think we're a little bit overdue for Leach.
I
was disappointed we didn't get Leach last year, but the fact that he is coming to the SEC to drop all of his knowledge, whether that be on how to eat a sandwich or Revolutionary War theories, I think we need that. We have been lacking comic relief in the SEC, and we finally have someone that can provide it. Because people talk about Lane, and Lane's great, don't get it twisted. Like, he's awesome on social media, but you kind of get him to some of these scenarios, and he might have a jab here or there, but he's pretty dry in what he's going to do. Leach is the guy who really can kind of take us, and he's coming at the perfect time. I don't know if they scheduled this on purpose, but he's after lunch on Wednesday, I think. So right when we're hitting that fog, when everything kind of feels like we're a little bit tired, a little bit worn down, we're going to get a good, healthy dose of Mike Leach.
And it's the same day as Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. So, I mean, right pancaked in between them. So, yeah, because I'm with you on Leach, and that's what I'm looking forward to, is just to see what ran or what he goes on. Because, I mean, I was even, on the previous show where I was talking about, I won't be surprised if someone asked him about, hey, what do you think about Mississippi State winning the College World Series? And then he'll be like, yeah, I went to that game. And I'll tell you, we played Vanderbilt, and there was this whistler that was there. And, I remember learning to whistle when I was 8 years old, and my brother thought he was better than me. But, and that's what I missed that, because I felt like there was a time in the SEC where you had, Steve Spurrier, Les Miles, Brett Bielema. You had some guys that were you had to go up to that main room and see what they were going to say. And after those guys left, there's just kind of this lull of who was the biggest personality, or the guy that would kind of chalk it up a little bit that didn't really have that. So the fact that there is Mike Leach, hopefully Lane does some things too. And, of course, the way Edo talks and stuff, there's at least some more, entertainment factors instead of just let's break down the depth chart too.
Right. We don't need any more of that. There's been some dry personalities here at SEC Media Days over the last few years. Maybe that's just on us media members not being able to get them to loosen up, and, I guess challenge accepted to all of us.
Yeah. So what's your favorite thing about SEC Media Days?
I work in a job in which I'm remote, and I'm based in Orlando, and so we have our coworkers are scattered across the country. But, for people like yourself, who I don't see in person throughout the year except for coming to events like this. And I love getting to see all those people that I communicate with on a regular basis but don't really get to see on a given Saturday or something like that. And especially after a year in which we didn't have college football games to be able to go to for most of us media members who were like, well, I'm not going to go just so I can sit in a press box and listen to a coach on Zoom. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. So getting to actually be physically here and just seeing everybody, I love it. It is what it is, and we're tired by the end of it, and the week itself is a bit of a blur. I have no idea what time it is. I've been up since 3 a.m. Central Time, and by the end of this week, I guarantee you I will be gassed, and I will have a nice cold beer waiting for me at home. But I love just being able to come here and get to see everybody, and it's talking season. We need talking season instead of talking COVID and whether or not we're going to play and all these different things. I just want to talk about football.
Yeah, and then that's what people want to hear about too, honestly. And it's funny because it's here at Hoover, and I guess next year it's in Nashville.
It was supposed to be in Nashville this year.
Yeah.
And they had to change it to Hoover because of some of the COVID restrictions that were still in place in Nashville.
Because last year was Atlanta, where it was supposed to be, right?
So Atlanta was 2018, and then we had Hoover 2019.
Yeah.
And so Hoover is supposed to be the default year, and they've always done it at Hoover, but I hope that we're going to continue to have all these sites all over the place. Sankey brought up Vegas, so
oh man,
who knows? I mean, he brought that up a couple years ago. We'll kind of wait and see on that one.
Yeah, because I went to Atlanta, and I know you were in that area too.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun. And then thinking about if it's in Nashville, that wouldn't be bad either. And but Vegas. That may be the topper. That hard to beat that one right there.
Vegas or Little Rock, one of the two.
Oh yeah, Little Rock. I bet you. Vegas, same thing, pretty much. It'd be a good time.
They can have it at Hoover. They can have it at Little Rock. Let's do it.
Hey, I'd love it just for the sake if I can sleep in my own bed and then just roll up and have a good time with it. So Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South, man, appreciate it. It's good to see you in person as always, and hopefully you gave some Razorback fans some hope for this season. Hey, if they can go 6-6, 7-5, I think most Razorback fans take that right now.
Hey, man, can't argue with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor, appreciate it, man. Enjoy the rest of your time here in Hoover, Alabama, all right?
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Again, that is Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more Out of Bounds live from SEC Media Days here in Hoover. We'll get to what's trending in the world of sports and more of your phone calls and messages coming up on Out of Bounds. Stay with us.
My Catfish, only fresh, U.S. farm-raised catfish, serving Central Arkansas for over a decade, and now a location in Fayetteville on Joyce next to Party City. Visit one of 5 of our Eat My Catfish locations for your fill of catfish, shrimp, crab legs, and more.
Business is built on connections, and with Square, you can connect every side of your business with tools that all work together. From your customers and your sales to your staff and your schedules, everything is in sync. So you can get a head start on shaping what's to come. See how Square can help connect every side of your business by visiting square.com/go/connect. That's square.com/go/connect.
How hard can it be to find a Python pro?
Sam's startup had a front-end developer walk out the back door. He needs a new software engineer, stat.
What do you mean they just quit? We go live in 72 hours.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Don't miss the savings during Lowe's Just for Pros event. Stop by the Pro Desk and get an extra 5% off volume savings orders over $1,500. Plus, look for more savings across the store, including tools, paint, lighting, and other pro essentials to help you get the job done right. Shop today at Lowe's, the new home for pros. Discount on eligible product only and reflected in quote. Terms and exclusions apply. See Pro Desk in store for details. Now through July 30th. U.S. only.
Ooh, a fondue set. Ugh, now I need to find a coupon code.
Not anymore, Susan. Capital One Shopping instantly searches for available coupon codes and automatically applies them at checkout.
Wait, instantly?
It's called shopping smart, not hard. Download Capital One Shopping to your computer for free and let it do the work for you.
Don't mind if I fondue.
Haha, that's kind of cheesy. Capital One Shopping. It's kind of genius. What's in your wallet?
Savings and available coupons vary.
Tune in each weekday morning from 6 to 10 for the show with no name from the Oaklawn Racing Casino Resort Studios. Like Oaklawn Racing Casino Resort on Facebook to stay up to date with news and special promotions.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur. I started my business in a dingy basement of a factory in 1986. Instead of customers, my visitors were rats, birds, flies, and snakes. To psych myself up that I was going to succeed, I wore formal business attire and a tie to that lonely factory basement every day. I needed help. That's why I created Patriot Software, to help small businesses with simple payroll for 1 to 100 employees. Our payroll starts at just $10 a month. And if you need help, we will help you for free. Go to PatriotSoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll processing free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
The world is full of information, but when there's a gap between information and application, things get a little confusing. On the Get Ready for the Future show, we help you cut through the confusion with straight talk about retirement, investments, and your money. Ready to bridge the gap? Listen exclusively on 103.7 The Buzz, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Genwealth Financial Advisors is a registered investment advisor with securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC.
There's only one place to stop for the best in meats in Central Arkansas. It's Hogs Meat Market. Check out their monthly package deals of the best meats online at hogsmeatmarket.com. Hogs Meat Market, the steak people. You're listening to Out of Bounds with John Neighbors and Joe Franklin.
Trying to reach the green from here, shooter?
That's not possible, sir.
I beg to differ. Happy Gilmore accomplished that feat no more than an hour ago.
Well, moron, good for Happy Gilmore. Oh, my God!
On 103.7 The Buzz.
Call Gwatney Chevrolet at 501-982-2102. Make a trip to the lot off the Gregory Street exit in Jacksonville, or shop them online at GwatneyChevrolet.com, where you can see all the deals, the cash allowances, the rebates, financing for up to 84 months, and you can get some of those same deals on pre-owns, the financing for 84 months. And now is the time to trade in, trade up, or pull in and cash out at Gwatney Chevrolet, because there's a new car shortage. So there's a temporary high value of your current trade, and you want to get that erased. Take advantage of your current situation, whether that's no equity, negative equity, or a current huge payment. Gwatney Chevrolet is going to help you out with that. They have an award-winning sales and service team that's going to service you at all times, convenient hours throughout the week, but also on Saturday from 7 a.m. until noon. It's GwatneyChevrolet.com. They have many of the questions that you may have answered there. So it's a user-friendly website, and up to $4,000 over book value on those trade-ins for pre-owns. It's Gwatney Chevrolet, Arkansas's #1 Chevy dealer. Gwatney Chevrolet, GwatneyChevrolet.com.
Coverage of SEC Media Days is presented by First Security Bank. First Security Bank, only in Arkansas. And brought to you in part by Edwards Food Giant, Eat My Catfish, and Blackman Auctions.
You agree, have a drink with
we are
me,
broadcasting live from SEC Media Days at Radio Row, Hoover, Alabama, and enjoying it. It's going to be a fun-filled week, no doubt about it. And be sure to check us out on all of our social media accounts at 1037 The Buzz, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, for all the great content as well. We're going to get into what's trending in the world of sports, but Seth asked on our Asher Record Live fan feedback, he says, what SEC schools will be here today for the SEC Media Days? Well, today is Florida, as well as South Carolina will be the later team, and then LSU. So I think LSU and obviously Florida will get a lot of people checking them out. But South Carolina is kind of the wild card, because Shane Beamer is the new head coach there and is not somebody that's really established himself yet as far as being a guy that people are looking at. Not to say he couldn't be successful at Arkansas or at South Carolina, but he's just not. He doesn't move the needle just yet, Joe. If that makes sense, he's not the Ed Orgeron or the Dan Mullen just yet in the SEC.
He's not that, but there are a lot of people interested in him because of the name, because of Beamer and Beamer Ball that was at Virginia Tech for a long time. So there's people interested because of the name, and they feel like he may do better than some of the fans think, as far as he is a first-year coach and what can you actually do at South Carolina. There are people that believe that he can do well because of the bloodline and where he comes from and the background that he has in coaching.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, because I think that he might be a coach that can surprise some people. But South Carolina is not an easy job, especially when you're having to go up against an in-state team called Clemson in recruiting every single year. So it'll be curious to see how it plays out for them. But as far as other things going on in the sports world, not necessarily connected or tied in with SEC Media Days, we know that over the weekend, NBA Finals Game 5 went down, and the Milwaukee Bucks got the victory, 123-119. So 3 straight wins for the Milwaukee Bucks, and Joe returning back to Milwaukee for a possible NBA Finals championship for the Bucks. It seems like it's a storyline that I know that they would want to finish out, but do the Suns have anything left in the tank, and can they force it to a Game 7?
Well, they have something left in the tank. We'll see how it plays out. But when you come away with 3 straight losses and then including one on your home floor, it does kind of take the wind out of you. But to close out a series, that is the hardest game to get. Milwaukee, though, they're in a good position by going back home, and they played well in these last 3 games. So they definitely have the advantage. Now, they could have a bit of pressure on them because there is pressure to close out at home, knowing that if you do go to a Game 7, you have to go back into that same environment in Phoenix and take one on the road. So you would give the advantage to the Bucks. But at this point, after going into Game 5, I thought that if the Bucks won, not that they would have an easy time in Game 6, but it could get out of hand because of the way that they've been playing. Now, one game has nothing to do with another, but they do have a sense of momentum at this point. So going into Game 6, if late in that game, it could possibly get out of hand where the Bucks do go on a run and put them away.
Yeah, and obviously we keep talking about Bobby Portis and how cool it would be for him to have an NBA Finals ring, and how awesome that would be not only for him but for Arkansas. But it's also funny too, Joe, because there are Milwaukee Bucks players that have been walking around with Bobby shirts. Bobby Portis wears simply a shirt that has Bobby Portis's nose and up, just kind of like in a caricature, and it just says Bobby, 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 like the Bobby chant. So he's getting a lot more love too, and he played pretty well. And like I said, it would be awesome to see whether you're a Bucks fan or not, or whether you're rooting for the Bucks or not, to see an Arkansas Razorback get an NBA Finals ring, because those things are hard to come by for anybody, and it would be the first one, I guess, since Corliss Williamson back when he won it with the Pistons. So that'd be pretty cool.
It's about being in a perfect situation, and Bobby has moved around, and he has found that perfect situation when he goes from the Bulls to the Wizards, the Knicks, and now he found a home in Milwaukee with the Bucks. This is that perfect opportunity of things just kind of coming together for him. And not to mention that he is playing well, so he has put himself in a position where down the line he could possibly get paid, whether it's with the Bucks or he can move on elsewhere and get paid.
Yeah, what a play by Drew Holiday too in that finals game. I mean, yeah, I know he said it was just being at the right place at the right time, but those are the types of plays that'll get you a championship right there at the very end, being able to come away with that steal on Devin Booker. They're a fun team to watch, and that was a phenomenal game, Joe. I mean, it looked like from the outset neither team knew how to miss. Like they were just killing it offensively. Ended up being a high-scoring affair, but those are the types of games that even if you don't care about the teams, those are the games you like to see because it was back and forth, it was intense, and it came down to the very wire. And it was the play by Drew Holiday that ended up saving the game for the Bucks as well.
And then the finish by Giannis. Because Drew Holiday, at that point that he steals the ball, he takes it down court. He could have just pulled it back out and kind of dribbled around where he was going to run some time off the clock. But Giannis running the floor, and he noticed that he was in a great position. He throws it up to him, and he lets Giannis finish the way that he does. And then, of course, he gets the foul and has an opportunity for an N1. Misses that, but then they get the rebound on it. So it was a stretch that was bad for the Suns on both ends, offensively and then defensively as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just, again, he shows his crazy athleticism. And it was funny because he did it on the defensive side, Joe, in Game 4, and then this time he does it on the offensive side, just showcasing his athleticism and his freakish ability. It was a great game. So hopefully in Game 6 and even in a Game 7, which I don't think anybody would mind having a Game 7, we get some more entertaining games that were on that level, because that was certainly enjoyable.
Oh, yeah, great game.
Yeah, and also in other news, too, real quick, this thing with Tom Brady is kind of making me laugh. So, Joe, could just be honest, would there be possibilities for repercussions for the Bucks not being, honest about his injury and everything? Could there be problems with that?
Oh, yeah, there could be. For some reason, and I know it wasn't every week that Tom Brady was on the injury report, but he's on the injury report quite a bit. Now, they may not have said specific to the knee, but it was one of those things when he was with the Patriots, everybody was like, whatever. Tom Brady's always on the injury report. And it could have been one of those things that was an oversight as well with the Bucks. But we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah, I mean, we all know about how Tom Brady gets punished in the NFL, so who knows how it'll go. But we're broadcasting live from SEC Media Days here in Hoover, Alabama. We have a lot more Out of Bounds coming up next. Stay with us.
Hey, this is Mitch at Red River Ram, Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep. And, folks, we have inventory that's literally selling as it comes off the truck. So we're going to make this the summer event that you bought a vehicle.
Live from the Hogs Meat Market Studios, this is Out of Bounds.
Booker has it. Booker leans in. That's a two-pointer. Shot won't go. Rebound tip taken by Tucker. Knocked loose. Back out to Booker. Final seconds. Deflected. Pull. A three-pointer. It's over. The Milwaukee Bucks are one win away from their first title in 50 years as they win on the road to take Game 5 and now lead 3 games to 2. The comeback falls short for Phoenix, a crushing loss at home.
Yeah. With John Neighbors.
Every time you put a mic in my face, I'm going to say Arkansas.
And Joe Franklin.
We won't go into shell. We're going to go in attack mode because that's what's required.
On 1037 The Buzz. Coverage of SEC Media Days is presented by First Security Bank. First Security Bank, only in Arkansas. And brought to you in part by Edwards Food Giant, Eat My Catfish, and Blackman Auctions.
My left stroke just went viral. Right stroke,
1 hour down, 2 hours to go. Appreciate everybody listening in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. John Neighbors, Joe Franklin, broadcasting live from Hoover, Alabama for SEC Media Days. And as always, appreciate everyone checking us out today as we are having a good time so far. 1 hour down, and we got a full 2 hours for you coming up. T-Bob A. Bear is going to be joining us here in this hour. Looking forward to catching up with him and talking a little LSU. And it was kind of funny, too, Joe. Ed Orgeron was on Radio Row, and I was over here some of the comments that he was making in one of the interviews he had. And one of the questions was, because with the NIL and everything going on, they asked him, hey, if you had the NIL back when you were a player, when you were an athlete, what do you think you would have been able to do with it? And I kid you not, he didn't even hesitate. His response was, I'd probably be selling shrimp. Selling shrimp was Ed Orgeron. That would have been the thing he would have done if he could have taken advantage of the NIL.
Well, that was what he was doing prior to him getting into coaching, so he's taking it back to his origins.
Yeah, I guess we know that he's got a lot of the Cajun or original guy from down in Louisiana, and he's always enjoyed stuff like that too. And I know that he loves the beach and loves being next to bodies of water and all that stuff. So it's not surprising or anything. But I was like, okay, good, because if Ed Orgeron was going to tell me trying to sell a car or something like that, it just wouldn't be fitting. It wouldn't be fitting. Selling shrimp, now that is something I can get down with if that's what Coach O wanted to do.
Oh yeah. But once you get used to that voice and kind of get an understanding for what he actually is talking about, that's a selling point also. That's something that is always talked about, is when you get to hear from Coach O, can you actually interpret what he's saying? And I'm sure if you spend enough time around him, then you know exactly what he's saying. But that becomes a selling point as well.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing to go up on YouTube after the press conferences get posted, and you can put on the closed captioning because it does it automatically, just to see what they come up with when Coach O is the one that's speaking, because they come up with some pretty funny words and some lines there too. But we'll be hearing from Coach O and any of the comments that he'll be making, as well as Dan Mullen and Shane Beamer, because that'll be all going on today down here in SEC Media Days. And again, T-Bob A. Bear, I want to say it'll be around 2:30, but it just kind of depends on when Coach O gets done, and we'll have T-Bob on to talk about the comments made by Coach O. So while we're waiting on T-Bob, let's go ahead and jump into our best and worst of the weekend.
It was the best of times.
In your life have you seen anything like that?
It was the worst of times.
Nuts and bolts, we got screwed. Third down.
It's time for the best and worst of the weekend on Out of Bounds.
All right, it is time for best and worst of the weekend. I'll go ahead and I'll start off with the best of the weekend for me. And, that play, we mentioned it in the quick-hitting headlines as far as what Drew Holiday was able to do. But I just love that play. I love the fact that, when you got a guy like Devin Booker that's going to be going up in a possible game-changing shot, how good offensively he is, especially when he gets a good look at the basket. For him to go in where he took a risk. I mean, he took a risk of leaving another man wide open, but I think that was a very heads-up smart play where he's like, listen, I don't think Devin Booker's going to be giving up this ball. He's going to be taking this ball, and the rest of it just come what may. So a heads-up play by him, a phenomenal NBA game. And, again, I don't care who the teams are playing and who's the stars or who's not the stars. Watching a game like that, whether you like the NBA or not, is just so enjoyable. So I loved Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Hopefully Game 6 and maybe even Game 7 are just as entertaining. But there's no doubt that the NBA Finals have been just as good as advertised and all we could have hoped for so far this year.
The Yankees finally getting off the mat against the Red Sox. They had lost to the Sox going into the series 6 times in a row. They lost the first couple of games. And then these last 2 games, they bounced back to finally beat the Sox in a series. And so the series itself, though, it was tied 2-2. But they were finally able to get a win versus the Sox, and then they capped it off yesterday with a convincing win, 9-1. They've been struggling here lately with changing in and out of the lineup, and that shows that they were playing just as good with some players that normally aren't in that lineup, and they were able to get a couple of wins against the Sox.
Yeah, I saw that. What was it? I guess I don't know if you're going to use it for part of your worst of the weekend, so I'm sorry if I'm jumping the gun, Joe. But was it the Yankees fan that hit the Red Sox player with a baseball? Was that what that was? Yeah, you can't be having that, man.
No, not at all. Not at all. No matter what is going on, no matter the trash talk back and forth, no, you can't do that. Now, they were throwing a ball back, so they tried to disguise it as, I was just throwing the ball back. But, no, you made it a point to try to hit him, and you just can't have that. We've seen that fans have gotten out of hand at a number of sporting events, and this is something that you have to get control of.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the COVID thing that's made fans this way, and luckily it hasn't been too bad in baseball. There's been some instances. We know in the NBA there was a lot of instances where particular fans were getting involved with players on the court. And you just can't have that. You can't have it in baseball. So, but it seemed like they were pretty quick to get whoever it was that threw that baseball out of there, and I'm sure he's been given a ban. So, but Joe, did you see the video that somebody was taking from the stands where they knew who threw it, and they were like videoing him once the people started pointing at him? Joe, he was sitting down shaking because he was like, oh crap, what did I do? I did not mean to do. Because he was like I don't think he was a kid, but he was definitely probably in his 20s, and he's just sitting there, and you could just see his knees. He's shaking a little bit. He's like, oh geez, I did not mean to do this, and ended up being problematic. So
you know better, man. Whenever you do anything, you know that there's video everywhere. There's always going to be someone filming, and there's always video. So he knew better than that.
Oh yeah. No, he did, and it was just one of those things where I'm like, man, that was a wild deal, but still. Let's move on to worst of the weekend and jump into that. Worst of the weekend for me, I got to say, was Space Jam 2, Joe. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, and I know that people were already thinking that I was going to hate it because of, LeBron being in it. But I gave it a chance, Joe. I gave this movie a chance because I love the original so much, and it was god awful. I couldn't even watch it. Even from a kid's perspective, it was awful. Just from all those factors, I just watched it and I was like, "There's no way a movie can be this bad." LeBron's acting was bad, but I don't think that's necessarily his fault. I think a lot of it had to do with the people asking too much out of him to be an actor. I think that was problematic, and I also think that that on top of a storyline that was a mess. Like, they didn't even play basketball. Like, it wasn't a basketball game. It was like some video game and stuff. So, I don't know. If you haven't seen Space Jam 2, save your time, save your money, save your breath. Do not watch it. It was atrocious in every regard. And I even have nephews that tried to watch it, and they couldn't even make it through it, Joe. So, it just wasn't for us.
So, what made the original Space Jam so much better? Because here's the thing that is out there. Oh, Michael Jordan was such a better actor than LeBron, and I'm like, how? How is that even possible? No, there's no way. Now, LeBron has had better moments as far as cameos and acting gigs and movies altogether, but this one specifically, they said, well, Jordan was so much better, and I don't know how that was even possible.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, Joe. When I watched it, what it was is that essentially it was you had like Michael Jordan was kind of the straight guy where everybody else was the comedy around him, if that makes sense. Like Bill Murray was the comedy, Wayne Knight was the comedy, the Looney Tunes were the comedy. Michael Jordan was just kind of being himself, being like, all right, this is whatever. But in this movie, I felt like they tried to make LeBron funny, and it was just like I couldn't do it that way. So I just was like, they asked too much out of him. Again, I'm not even blaming LeBron. Like, I think that whoever was filming or directing it, they just asked way too much out of LeBron to try to make him funny. And not to say he's a bad actor, because he's not. I saw Trainwreck. He was good in it. But this was just –
he was great in Trainwreck.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he was great. But in this, I'm like, where did that acting go? Like, what happened? What changed? So, I don't know. Again, I know it's a kid's movie.
That's what everybody has to remember. And some of the things that kids can relate to and making him not necessarily funny, but making him funny in a way for kids. You got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I know. But that was the worst of my weekend. And, I guess, like I said, maybe I'm making too big of a deal out of it, but it was still pretty bad.
So Dame Lillard is playing for USA Basketball. He's one of the stars. He's one of the guys that is going to be someone that you look to score and kind of put the team on his back at times because of the way that he can do that. But all the talk about Dame Lillard is not about USA Basketball. Everybody is talking about him possibly being traded, trade destinations for him. This is not the time for it. Let Dame Lillard go play for Team USA. They've already had some struggles early with exhibition games, and that's not to say that those mean anything on the games that are coming about.
Right.
But let the man go play basketball and do what's right in front of him and leave the trade talk for another time, because that's going to come after.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, too. But it's just like sometimes it drives me up a wall, but other times I'm like, and sadly, it's just the way it is, and it's the way it always has been. But still, there's our best and worst of the weekend. And we'll hear from some other people giving their best and worst of the weekend. But right now, we have a very special guest joining us live from SEC Media Days here in Hoover, Alabama. We've had him on the phone lines, and now we have him in person. Is T-Bob Hebert, the former LSU great and also of ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. Hey, it's good to see you again, T-Bob.
John, what up, dude? Chilling, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How's SEC Media Days been treating you so far?
It's pretty good. Just watched O give his press conference. Nothing too standouty about it, I suppose. Look, man, but then again, I guess to me that's not the best part about it. The best part about SEC Media Days is never the press conferences themselves or really the players themselves, though. Maybe it was like pre-Steve Spurrier leaving. But yeah, now the more exciting part is just kind of roaming the halls, seeing people doing things like this, getting to sit down and see and work with people, talk with people you haven't seen in a long time. So I'm loving it. I'm loving the energy here. I'm very excited to be staying here until Thursday. But yeah, from like an actual news standpoint, nothing. Well, Greg Sankey's actually presser was pretty newsy, I would say, but that's it so far.
Yeah, because I didn't get a chance to listen to Coach O, and I got to see a little bit of Greg Sankey's comments and everything like that. And, we were actually talking about LSU for a little bit, and just to dive into that and this upcoming season, I know that team that Ed Orgeron had 2 years ago, national championship, just awesome, one of the best college football teams you'll ever see. But I just get this feeling, and maybe you can correct me on it, where going into this season, it just seems like there is a lot of pressure on Coach O to really elevate it a little bit this year.
Yeah, man, it's the True Detective thing. Time is a flat circle. Like, it's only – you're never that far away from people wanting you out. It's kind of crazy, right? You would think going 15-0, beating Alabama, winning the national championship, bringing offense to Baton Rouge, a place where quarterbacks just come to thrive, bringing a Heisman Trophy, like, surely, no matter what happened the next year, this would buy you multiple years of people having full belief in you, but that's just not the case, right? I mean, it's a lot of facets of life live kind of by the "what have you done for me lately" mantra, and football maybe even more so than those other facets. And so all of a sudden, even though you're the one that hired Joe Brady after he gave like a random screen presentation to the team and kind of blew you away, although you're the one that specifically recruited Joe Burrow out of Ohio, and although you're the architect of things, like you were the head coach of this team, but because you then went 5-5 the next season, well, then people start viewing the narrative in a perspective that fits how they're already thinking, right? So all of a sudden, no, you just got lucky that Joe Brady happened to end up there, or lucky that Joe Burrow lost that position battle, then ended up at LSU, and that's what really carried you to the championship, and you had nothing to do with it. The truth is obviously all of that kind of mixed together. It is both things. But no, look, I think that there is a lot of pressure on him. in terms of do people believe that he can create a championship-relevant program year in and year out? Because that's what LSU is looking for more so than anything is consistency. It's really funny, right? Look at LSU compared to Georgia. Despite the fact that LSU's beaten Georgia heads up twice in a row, like smoked them both times they played, 2018 and 19. And although Ed Orgeron has a significantly better record against top 10 teams, and Kirby Smart is like all these other things, Georgia is viewed as a better program, and Kirby Smart is viewed as a better coach. And they don't have a national championship, right?
Right.
LSU's got the second most national championship in the country since the year 2000. So it's definitely a situation of, in college football maybe especially, sometimes consistency can be valued over everything. And that 5-5 year last year just caused a lot of people to be like, "Oh, I told you." I mean, he's going to turn back into a pumpkin. The Cinderella story's over.
Well, like as far as this year goes, what can people point to, or what are people pointing to say this is why it's going to be better and different this year from last year? Like, what's kind of the hope?
I think the coaches is where you have to start, because I think you have something bordering on medical malpractice with what Bo Pelini did with that defense last season. Taking a defense that features Derek Stingley Jr. and Eli Ricks and literally being the worst pass defense in the country. It's hard to do. It's impressive, honestly. So I think that'd be the biggest difference. I mean, and even offensively, they were good. And it's funny too. You get so spoiled so fast. A few years ago, last year's offense would have caused people to like literally cry tears of joy. And then last year's like, oh, we suck. But offensively, they weren't bad. I mean, they did actually pretty well with like freshman quarterbacks in those situations, but they did stagnate a bit, right? There wasn't a lot of innovation, not a lot of dynamism to that offense always, and maybe that's coach's fault, maybe it's not, but I do like the fact that the 5 coaches who left, I think, were around average age like 51 or 52, and the coaches that they added to replace them are like an average age of like 37. So a definite concerted youth movement in the coach staff. But really, that goes back to a lot of what O's always been good at. When things go bad, can you be honest with yourself and identify what the problems are, and then can you make decisions that seek to fix those problems?
So looking at the quarterback situation, because that's usually what it comes down to, and winning in the SEC, how does that look for LSU?
It looks really good. Max Johnson and Miles Brennan, I think, are both really good.
Okay.
So that's where it's interesting. I actually don't adjust my win-loss total for whoever wins the job.
Okay.
I think they're 9-3 either way. Potential to go 10-2 maybe. But the thing with Max and Miles is, in Miles, you have someone who ended with a 1-2 record. But statistically, I mean, you cannot say the games were on him. The defense gave some worst performance ever, because statistically in 3 games, Miles threw for over 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. Like, I think he averaged 375 a game, 3.6 touchdowns per game. That would have been first in the SEC.
Yeah.
And that Missouri game, he literally played with an ab like torn in half the entire game. They held him out for the rest of the year. So there's a lot of talent there. But then in Max Johnson, statistically not as overwhelming, though he still put up some okay numbers. But going 2-0, going to Florida and winning that game, regardless of whatever breaks you had to win it, and then beating Ole Miss at home. So I feel like both are very solid, and I feel like they will only make each other better. And whoever wins the job, I think, is fully capable of guiding LSU to that 9-3 year.
Yeah, because I was looking at their schedule, and obviously they got to play in the West, and we know how difficult that is. But starting at UCLA in the season, which, I mean, UCLA is a Power 5 team, but it's always like, I have no idea what is UCLA, you know?
Yeah, and Chip Kelly, and it's like weird too, because we still think of Chip Kelly as like Oregon Chip Kelly at times. Does he have any of that Chip Kelly left? Like, he was an innovator at that time. He was so far ahead of the curve. Now everybody's doing what he was doing, right? So where's his quality level at now? This is what I say about the UCLA team. If LSU loses that game, then I have severely overrated this team. Like, if they lose that game, then I'm not saying it's not a tough game,
right?
Because it is, and it's always tough to start the season with another Big 5, Power 5 school, even though I actually like it. But if they lose that game, then there are bigger problems than the ones that I am seeing with the team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at those opening games and non-conference games. They're always fascinating. The other thing, too, about what's been the topic, and I know you guys have probably talked about like crazy, is this NIL thing.
Yeah.
And, it's pretty fascinating. I just wanted, from, a former player's perspective, what's your thoughts on this NIL thing?
I mean, look, I think it represents a fundamental shift in college athletics, and I just think it was also inevitable. I mean, look, me personally, I'm happy with it. I think it's very American, right? In no other facet of American life do we argue that labor shouldn't be paid in some way or shouldn't get a piece of the pie. It's very capitalistic. Let the market decide. That's literally what they're saying in terms of how you price these things out and whatnot. And it also avoids, it's something that any college student can do, right? So it's no longer some weird thing where, if you're a regular student, you can have a YouTube channel that makes $2,000 a month, but if you're a football player, you can't. That's a big disconnect to me. So I like it on a lot of fronts. Will it be absolutely different? Yes. Will there be problems from it? Yes. But corruption will always exist, right? On the edges, it's always going to exist. So it just transmutes and exists in a different way, essentially.
Couldn't agree more. So how much money could T-Bob have made in college? How much money are we talking?
I could have made a few bucks. I was pretty popular back in 2011. Also, my favorite claim to fame when I was it is interesting, right? Because something like getting selected for SEC Media Day does make you then a more. It's funny that now has almost like a monetary value because it makes you a more attractive tie-in
for sure for
the businesses. So I don't know, maybe could have made a couple bucks.
Yeah, he probably could have made a lot more than nothing, and which is what went on. So could have made a lot more. So hey, T-Bob, man, appreciate you coming on with us. It's always good to catch up with you. And SEC Media Days, man, we'll be seeing you around here for sure. All right,
John, holla, man.
All right, appreciate it. It's T-Bob Hebert of ESPN 104.5 Baton Rouge joins Talks some LSU. We'll take a commercial break and come back with more Out of Bounds here on 103.7 The Buzz, live from Hoover, Alabama for SEC Media Days.
Central Arkansas Truck and Trailer presents Match Game on 103.7 The Buzz. Listen to the show with no name for your chance to play their version of the classic TV show.
This is Sports Center.
The Razorback football team adds one of the biggest recruits on their big board. On Saturday, offensive lineman Patrick Kutas made his commitment. The Memphis native is listed as the number 23 prospect in the state of Tennessee. He chose Arkansas over Florida State, Oregon, and Illinois. Well, Team Arkansas's chance of winning $1 million in the TBT tournament came to an end yesterday as they lost to Team Challenge ALS. The tournament features teams made up of former college basketball players from their respective state. Today is the start of SEC Media Days in Hoover, Alabama. At the podium today will feature Florida, LSU, and South Carolina. Arkansas will be on the final day with Missouri and Auburn. Stay tuned to The Buzz all day for exclusive interviews. And at the Open Championship, Colin Morikawa captured the Claret Jug after finishing the tournament at 15 under. He was followed by Jordan Spieth at 13 under. I'm RJ Hawk for the Buzz Radio Network.
What's up, everybody? This is Pat Bradley for Brewski's Pub and Grub, downtown Little Rock. Poker players, listen up. Every Monday and Wednesday, poker is back at Brewski's. 2 games each night, and the first one starts at 7 p.m. It's free to enter and a cash prize to the winner. So come on down, bring your luck and your skill with you. Poker is back every Monday and Wednesday at Brewski's Pub and Grub, so come and get your grub on.
Been upside down for years? Making big payments after bad car deals? I'm Penny Cobb Burkhalter, and right now is your big chance at Gwatney Buick GMC during our Throw the Book at It sales event. Call 945-4444.
While many manufacturers are struggling with new inventory, the value of your trade is higher than it ever will be. If you've been upside down, check the book, because right now is a brief moment in time where you likely aren't. So let Gwatney Buick GMC throw the book at it and put you in a new vehicle with less miles and more value. Call 945-4444 now.
Don't wait. Upgrade your trade at Gwatney Buick GMC now, because when new car inventory writes itself across our industry, your car's trade value could roll you right back to square one.
It's Gwatney Buick GMC's Throw the Book at It sales event, 5700 Landers Road in North Little Rock. GwatneyBuickGMC.com. Call 945-4444. GMC. We are professional grade.
Oh, according to research, 82% of people remember radio ads. That means that 82% of you listening right now will remember that this is an ad for ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, 82% of you will recall that ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster and easier. And 82% of you will note that you can try ZipRecruiter for free today. But you have to go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio, like where this ad plays. 82% of you will keep in mind that ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified people for your job and actively invites them to apply.
Scott, is that you? Who are you talking to?
82% of you will also know that I, live with my mom. But the most important thing to note is that ZipRecruiter works. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Will you be part of the 82% who remember where you can try ZipRecruiter for free? It's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Again, that exclusive link is ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Yes, radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Hi, I'm Rick Pennington of Lions Drug. We have great news. Generic Cialis is now available at a huge savings. We have Tadalafil, the FDA-approved generic of Cialis, in a 20-milligram tablet at a savings of up to 80%. We have the 5-milligram daily tablets for less than $3 a pill. Lions Drug continues to be your go-to pharmacy for men's health. What are you waiting for? Call us today at 844-676-2247 or go to our website at lionsdrug.com.
It's not just about the size of the meat, it's about where you get it from. So get it from Hogs Meat Market in North Little Rock. Hogs Meat Market, the steak people. You're listening to Out of Bounds with John Neighbors and Joe Franklin.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
On 103.7 The Buzz.
It's National Grilling Month, and the place to go celebrate that is Twin Peaks. You can celebrate that by getting one of the specialty burgers, the Hangover Avocado Smash Billionaire's Bacon Burger. So you want to get to Twin Peaks for that. They have plenty of seating inside and out with wall-to-wall TVs to watch all the sports action. And it is happy hour. Happy hours from 2 to 7, later happy hour 10 to 11. So enjoy all the food and drink specials going on during happy hour. You can order online, curbside, or to go, courtesy of Postmates, DoorDash, and Uber Eats. And you want to vote for Miss Twin Peaks right now. So it's MissTwinPeaks2021.com, and you spell out Miss, M-I-S-S, TwinPeaks2021.com. You want to vote for Catherine. She's representing West Little Rock, and the last day to vote is coming up here on Wednesday, the 21st. Also, if you're looking for a job, Twin Peaks is a fun, great place to work, and you can make some good money there. All you have to do is text WORK, the number 4, TP, to 85000. It's Twin Peaks, Eats, Drinks, Scenic Views.
Coverage of SEC Media Days is presented by First Security Bank. First Security Bank, only in Arkansas. And brought to you in part by Edwards Food Giant, Eat My Catfish, and Blackman Auctions.
Broadcasting live from SEC Media Days, it is Out of Bounds, and appreciate T-Bob Hebert joining us in the previous segment. Talk a little LSU as the expectations are at an all-time high there in Baton Rouge. And you know, it's just crazy to me to think, Joe, that 2 years ago they won a national championship, and now there's just so much pressure on him. I guess that just shows you how it is in the life of SEC football, and especially at a place like LSU, that, yeah, that's great, you won it, but you got to be able to show some consistency, and 5-5 just ain't going to cut
it. That's right. But I think T-Bob had a great point that, man, fresh off a national championship, and we know it didn't happen last year, but you're not that far removed from it, that it should buy you a little bit of time, but we know that people are worried about what have you done for me lately, and there's certain expectations at LSU year in and year out, and winning 9 games a season, believe it or not, is not good enough at LSU because they have so much more expected where they want to continue for championships each and every year.
I'm telling you, it continues to go back to the whole Nick Saban thing, and where he's essentially ruined in a lot of ways, like college football in general, just because it's like, you know, say if Nick Saban was not in the SEC anymore. I am not saying, though, that Alabama would be bad at football or anything like that. But think about the opportunities that opens up for other coaches to win the SEC and to win it a little easier. You know, like LSU could have won the SEC numerous times if it wasn't for Nick Saban, just because of how things are cyclical and how things just play out certain ways. You know, teams like Auburn, teams like, you know, maybe A&M, maybe even Arkansas on occasion, if Nick Saban wasn't in there, it would have made a difference. And I feel like that's kind of the thing where, you know, if Nick Saban wasn't coaching Alabama anymore, who knows? Maybe this year in the West, LSU could win the West, and that would be, you know, everyone would be happy with that. Everybody would be good with it. But because of the fact that they know that they have to go up against Nick Saban, and he normally, in fact, like 85, 90% of the time finishes first, it just makes things a lot more difficult to be able to find that consistency that they need.
There's a lot of pressure for these coaches to win now, regardless of whatever the situation is. But think about it in a sense that if Nick Saban, whenever he does decide to step away, it's going to make the pressure go up even more, because now you don't have kind of that built-in excuse where they've been dominant simply because of Nick Saban and what he's been able to do. Now if he's not around anymore, the pressure goes up even more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and at a place like LSU, like you mentioned, they have so much talent, and it's a place that has that expectation because, like T-Bob says, they've won the second most national championships since 2000. I mean, they've been there. And what's also funny is they've won those championships with 3 different coaches. They've won 3 titles with 3 different coaches. Of course, Nick Saban being one of them, then Les Miles, and now Ed Orgeron. So they start to believe that it's not a coach thing at LSU. It's LSU in general. That's why they're able to compete and maybe even get a chance for winning national championships on multiple occasions. But, again, in the SEC West, though, not everybody can finish first, and somebody has to finish last. And in this division, it's just kind of what goes with the territory. But I still have hope for Ed Orgeron. I've always liked Eddie O. I think that he is a coach that understands how to get the most out of his players. I think he's motivational. I think a lot of people love working with him. But like one of the stories that got brought up, Joe, and I had forgotten about this, when he hired Bo Pelini, he didn't even interview Bo Pelini last year. Like, he just because, which I know, like COVID and all that stuff kind of put some stuff into a bind no matter what. But apparently he didn't even interview him. He just hired him because he's like, oh, well, he's Bo Pelini. He'd be a great hire. And I think he learned a valuable lesson from that as well.
Yeah, Bo Pelini is one of those guys that his name carries weight, so you're thinking right away, what he's done in the sport of college football and what he has brought to the table, especially from a defensive standpoint, that, this guy is going to fit right in and he's going to do some great things. But fits, they're not always – they don't always come together right away, and then sometimes you have where they don't come together at all.
Yeah, in fact, Ethan texted in our first Arkansas Bank and Trust text line, says Gene Chizik won a championship, and 2 years later he was fired. And that's a good point. But the difference is with Gene Chizik is that he won a championship and then went 2-10 2 years later.
But it's still Saban having an effect where Alabama – and then you go back to LSU. Saban was the guy that put him on the map as far as winning that initial championship recently, and then they've been able to carry that on. But you talked about him ruining the SEC and SEC West. Once again, he had that effect on LSU as well because they're spoiled in a sense.
That's what we're all hoping to see is once Nick Saban finally leaves, is getting to see coaches and have more tenure, have more time, which I'm not saying that they'll go from, oh, well, let's give this coach 10 years, because like I said, like Houston Nutt being at Arkansas for 10 years is almost unthinkable right now. Like just because, but that just shows you during that time, there was no one SEC team that just dominated everybody. Like Arkansas won the West on occasion. You had LSU in there. You had Bama. You had Auburn. On the other side, you had Tennessee. You had Georgia. You had Florida. Like there was always like different teams, almost cyclical in a way, to where you could have different levels of success, and you never knew who. You always felt like you had a puncher's chance of winning it. But with Nick Saban being in there, the puncher's chances just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like you have it all together and you're able to make it work. So I guess at the end of the day, you want to give coaches time, and you want to be able to let them get their feels and get their team going and everything. But at a place like LSU, in the case of Ed Orgeron, they don't have time to give you time. They got to win now because they feel like they can be just as good as Alabama just with the right coach in mind. And if you're not doing that, then they're going to find somebody else that they hope will be that right coach at the right time.
So it's always going to be pressure on those two schools, those two teams in LSU and Auburn, because Auburn, that is your biggest rival in Alabama. There's going to be pressure there. And then from the talent standpoint, as you mentioned, there's pressure on LSU because they say, well, there's no excuse for losing to Alabama so many straight times. You should be able to break through and beat them every now and then. So it's always pressure on them. But once again, whenever Saban decides to step away, I think that pressure ramps up not only for them because it's always there, but it even ramps up for more other teams out there because of the fact, as you mentioned, how other teams have come into the mix, and it's been more wide open with more teams winning a championship. Now that puts even more pressure on them to say, okay, they're winning they're winning SEC titles at this school, this school, this school. You know, there's so many different ones. What's going on here? Why aren't we competing? Why aren't we winning?
Because, hey, we got facilities, we got money, we got support, we got it all. And that's what makes the SEC so competitive, is because everybody has those things. Now, I'm not to say that there's not some stadiums that are nicer than others, or some practice facilities that aren't nicer than others, or, you know, the cities where the campuses are located at that are nicer than others. But when it's all basically in the same vicinity and in the ballpark, and you're constantly upgrading everything ad nauseum all the time, it becomes to where it's like, hey, why can't we do what they're doing? Well, you just don't have that coach. Well, let's go find that coach that can do it. Well, this guy can't do it. All right, well, we'll move along from him and go find this next one. Coaching is vital. It is so important when it comes to success in college football. It's the most important thing. I think we can probably all agree with that. Not to say there aren't exceptions to the rule, but we can all agree that it is the most important thing. And people want to keep it going where they have the money. So they're like, all right, well, we'll just get you out of here. We'll pay you your buyouts because we'll go find somebody else too. It's just a very greedy, very performance-driven business. But at the same time, it ends up being worth it because of all the money involved too.
Oh, absolutely. These coaches, they're well compensated, but with that compensation, you have to perform, and they understand that. So there's pressure involved with that from that standpoint as well, where you know exactly what's expected at all times, and you have to produce to be able to not only live up to those expectations, but you are being compensated well, so you know that there's certain things that are expected from you to produce.
And it's the same thing, like even if you want to take the example here at Arkansas, that if Arkansas ever got to a point to where they were winning double-digit games per season and had a couple of years, or even a few years, where they were able to be at that level, the next step is always the expectation. Like, remember when Arkansas had those Bobby Petrino years, and I know I keep reflecting back on it, but when they had those years, everyone was like, okay, well, this is awesome. We love going to the Sugar Bowl. We love being able to compete and then being in the top 5 and winning 11 games. But that next step needs to be winning the SEC West, beating Alabama. And if Arkansas had Bobby Petrino a few years after that, and if he wasn't able to win the SEC West or to beat Alabama, even if he was having success, they would be like, okay, maybe we need to make a change, because with those expectations comes success and vice versa. So, it could happen at a place like Arkansas even. They're always just looking to take that next step and be that next expectation. And who knows, if Sam Pittman has a 7-5, 8-4 year like Conor O'Gara said it could have, Joe, the next year the expectations are going to get elevated even more. It's just the way it goes.
Oh, yeah, that is definitely the way it goes, because even in a season where there's not a lot expected, once you get into that season, if you're having success, the expectations go up immediately because everybody wants more. And that happens within a season, and then season to season, those expectations always go up because everybody wants more. They feel like you can give more.
Yeah, it's the same thing here where people want more of Out of Bounds, and it's going to be coming up next. We get the same feeling all the time over here, folks. But we're live from SEC Media Days here in Hoover, Alabama. Still got to get to your Razor Hog update presented by Buy Rider. And coming up here in about 20 minutes, Joe Tessitore of ESPN and SEC Network is going to join us. We're going to talk to him about SEC Media Days, about the Razorbacks, about SEC football, all that fun stuff, and a lot more coming up on Out of Bounds. Stay with us.
The lake is calling, so now's the time to visit Bradford Marine and ATV and move to the #1 selling fishing boat, the Bass Tracker Pro Team 175 TXW with a 60-horsepower Mercury outboard. And the Bass Tracker Pro Team 175 TXW starts at only $20,995. Hey, Bradford Marine and ATV also carries Ranger aluminum bass boats. So take it from the wild, man, and pick out your new Tracker or Ranger bass boat at any of the Bradford Marine and ATV 6 statewide locations.
Your authorized Tracker and Ranger boat dealer.
Hey, this is Mitch at Red River Ram, Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep. And folks, we have inventory that's literally selling as it comes off the truck. So we're going to make this the summer event that you bought a vehicle right off the truck. Or we're going to make this the summer event that you got more for your trade-in than you probably paid for it 6 months ago. It's crazy out there right now. If you bought a vehicle over 6 months ago, you'll probably get as much as you gave for it today. So if you're looking for a new Ram, Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep, check us out in the beautiful town of Heber Springs or online at redriverdodge.com.
Prescription products require an online consultation. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
My husband's ED was affecting our marriage. When he first started experiencing ED, it was difficult for both of us. We didn't know who to talk to about it or where to get help. HIMS was our answer. HIMS connected my husband with a licensed provider online. He was able to get medication to treat his ED at a fraction of the price people pay for the name brand. It was delivered to our door, and guess what? Our sex life is back. It works.
Right now, get your first online provider's visit totally free when you go to forhims.com/love. Yep, free. No copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. Just the care you need.
Thanks to HIMS, we got our sex life and our marriage back.
To start your free online visit, go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/love. That's forhims.com/love for your free online visit. forhims.com/love.
Don't miss the savings during Lowe's Just for Pros event. Stop by the Pro Desk and get an extra 5% off volume savings orders over $1,500. Plus, look for more savings across the store, including tools, paint, lighting, and other pro essentials to help you get the job done right. Shop today at Lowe's, the new home for pros. Discount on eligible product only and reflected in quote. Terms and exclusions apply. See Pro Desk in store for details. Now through July 30th. U.S. only.
Progressive Motorcycle presents Road Wisdom from the Motor.
Half man, half motorcycle.
You grab life with both hands. And you grab your bike with both hands.
Both hands.
Therefore, bike is life.
Figuratively speaking.
Progressive Motorcycle also presents Roadside Assistance. Progressive Motorcycle for those who were born to ride. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Bikers want a chance to win a real Orange County chopper? This custom 2020 bike with a vintage knucklehead motor could be all yours.
Rainwater Holt and Sexton wants you to know about this nationwide sweepstakes offered by Orange County Choppers and Back Off My Bike.
Designed by me and made in my shop.
You can register to win this real Orange County chopper at callrainwater.com.
No purchase necessary. Must be 18 or older to enter. Message and data rates may apply. Promotion ends 12/31/2021. Visit backoffmybike.com for rules. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited.
Non-lawyer spokesperson.
Responsible attorneys Michael Rainwater and Bob Sexton.
Some of my fondest childhood memories are from volunteering with my grandmother. Helping others was her passion. She'd always say, "The sweetest fruits of life come from serving others." And she was right.
At Shelter Insurance, we strive to make a positive impact in the communities where we work and live.
See Monica Reiners or Brian Kress in North Little Rock or Jamie Huffman in Little Rock and ask about Shelter's competitive rates.
There's only one place to stop for the best in meats in Central Arkansas. It's Hogs Meat Market. Check out their monthly package deals of the best meats online at hogsmeatmarket.com. Hogs Meat Market, the steak people. You're listening to Out of Bounds with John Neighbors and Joe Franklin.
Oh, man, talk radio?
Yes, talk radio.
So boring, man.
Okay.
The car just committed suicide.
Shut up, man.
On 103.7 The Buzz. Coverage of SEC Media Days is presented by First Security Bank. First Security Bank, only in Arkansas. And brought to you in part by Edwards Food Giant, Eat My Catfish, and Blackman Auctions.
Shorty, I need to see you and feel you next to me. I provide everything you need and
Welcome back in Out of Bounds, broadcasting live from SEC Media Days. Have a few people chiming in on Twitter. Looks like that we have Jeff saying he believes Arkansas has a chance to go 9-3. He thinks that this will be the year that Arkansas finally beats Texas A&M in Arlington. Well, I would love that, Jeff. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I would love to see it. In fact, I guess Arkansas, we know, has a losing streak, Joe, against Bama since 2006. I think that's, 14 straight losses, I think, to Bama, something like that. So they have that. They have a losing streak to A&M since 2011, so that's 9 straight. And then they have, I think, a losing streak to Missouri.
Yes, yeah.
Sadly, which is like a 4-game losing streak. So, listen, I would be tickled pink if you could make any of those losing streaks disappear this year. Because, I mean, I can understand Bama. That's frustrating. But A&M and Missouri, you've had your chances to defeat them, but you've just yet to be able to do it.
Oh, yeah. There have been some close games against A&M and Missouri, just haven't been able to break through. And Missouri is the one that people may look at the end of the season, have that one circled every year, saying that that's almost not a must-win, but one that you should win every year. A&M, on the other hand, that's one that will be looked at in the sense that you have gotten close a number of times, and you should be able to break through at some point as well. Now, Bama, on the other hand, that would be gravy, icing. It would be such a bonus to be able to break through and beat them.
I'd throw up if they ever ended up beating Bama, like this year or something like that. Because it would almost be like I feel like I would be living in a fantasy land. Like if Arkansas ever beat Bama, or at least like if they beat them this year, it would be like in a dream world type of thing. But, hey, here's the thing. Arkansas has done some really good things in their sports and in their departments over the past year or so. Who knows? Maybe if everything goes right and everything goes according to plan, you can walk into Tuscaloosa and get out of there with a victory. I'm not going to bet on it, but I guess it is possible because everything in college football is possible.
Anything's possible.
That's right. That's the way we got to look at it. All right, let's go ahead and get into your Razor Hog update presented by Byrider.
Guys, I've got just one thing I want to say to you. Touchdown, Arkansas!
Arkansas wins the national championship! The Arkansas Razorbacks have completed the dream season!
Hogs by 90!
This is your Razor Hog Update on Out of Bounds, presented by Byrider. Each vehicle Byrider sells comes with a 3-year, 36,000-mile limited warranty, including spark plug, starter, battery, alternator, and more. Online at Byrider.com.
All right, so for your Razor Hog updates, speaking of SEC Media Days and some of the things that come along with it, you have people being named to the watch list, which we all know and love. It's Jalen Catalon and Grant Morgan. They have been named to the Bednarik Award watch list, which, of course, goes to the best defensive player in the country in college football, or the most outstanding, as they like to put it. But not only them, but Traylon Burks is also up as an award watch list for the Maxwell Award. So not surprising there. We know Traylon Burks is really good too. But, Joe, is it just me, or do I think, like, award watch lists are so pointless? But I guess it's something to talk about and something to throw out there and say, hey, be on the lookout because they may have a chance at winning it this year.
It gives the players something to look forward to hearing their names, but it goes along with talking season, and that's where we are. Now, the players, from their standpoint, if they're not a part of that, then they want to be a bigger part of it at the end of the season, because that says that not only were you a part of it maybe from the start, but you actually accomplished it on the field. But also, if you weren't a part of it, then it gives you a little extra boost at the end, because you say, I was overlooked in the beginning, but look what I did throughout the season, and I proved that I should have been on some of those original watch lists.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to look at it. I think another way, too, is that, like, for instance, in the defensive side of things for the Bednarik, Arkansas is only one of 11 teams that has 2 student-athletes that are on the watch list with Jalen Catalon and Grant Morgan. So, take that as a compliment to where, yeah, you're one of 11 schools that's got 2. So it's just about finding the silver linings in these things, and who knows, maybe you can find a way to get a semifinalist or even a finalist or even win one of the dadgum things. But still, like you said, Joe, it's talking season, and that's just what we're doing right now is talking. Also, another news, too, Arkansas actually officially released their media guide for those people that are actually interested in media guides and collecting them, because I know a lot of people are. Kind of a cool thing. It's actually got Jalen Catalon and Traylon Burks and Grant Morgan on the cover, but also Myron Cunningham. So it's got that. Pretty cool. I would say, I looked at all the other SEC media guides, Joe, and I'd say Arkansas, as far as creativity and look, is in the middle of the pack, so not too bad. But I will say, though, the worst one has to be Auburn, because they always do this. But still, it just says Auburn Football 2021 Media Almanac, and it's white. That's all it says. like no cool graphics or anything.
They keep it simple, huh?
Yeah, apparently that's what they always do. But I'm like, okay, I guess. But it's funny how people – because I've always referred to it as a media guide, Joe, but Auburn calls it a media almanac. Vanderbilt calls it a fact book. Mississippi State calls it their record book. So I'm like, what is it? I guess it's all of the above, but I didn't realize so many different teams called it different things. But